same principle as a square bowl, except I cut out a shamrock first.
Well, I like it. Ken Lewis.
That's a mahogany version of
Isn't that cool? Gosh, it's just amazing. Where did you go? Where? I lost you. Okay. Gilbert?
That's poplar, and I use the same process that Bob used. I cut out the shape first, and then put it on the lathe and turn it. And I use CNC router to cut out the shape, so I can make different sizes by just changing the router size.
Right. I love it. I love it. Bobby? Give us your 2 cents on how you did this. What you...
Well, I had a pattern for the middle one. So it's pretty good, so I tried to make a bigger one.
It don't matter. It don't matter. It's just everybody's own creativity on the topic. I mean, mine is going to always be interesting. Denise. Denise was doing pins, and she has her CNC, what do you call it?
3D printer.
The 3D printer for her.
It's a mold. I was going to pour
Thank
it
you.
in, but I never got it done. So.
But she has to start really from scratch when she has an interesting idea. Also, we had our first quarter not-for-profit donation that will be donated to libraries. And it is book place markers, which it's just amazing. You stick your thumb in, it goes down in the center of your pages, and it holds your book pages open. And so that's just neat. And I had a thought, I'm going to get this right. One time or another, I'm going to get this. To turn it. And when you turn it, you end up with the profile. So when you go to cut it out, you end up with your shape. So I went to the drill press first, and I had my hole that I wanted, and then by the time I got back to the drill press, somebody had helped me change the bit. And I didn't pay any attention, so now I have a larger hole. So this is for a giant. And then Denise did kitty cats. And then Bob did these. These are silver maple? Okay. Anyway, it's easy as falling off a log. And I appreciate everybody doing it. So we are going to donate these to a library for their avid readers, hopefully younger people that can be encouraged. Over on the table, I took it upon myself to get the club a branding iron. So it's Tri-City Woodturners.
That's got a dual function.
All right, do tell.
When you're done reading and you want to eat and you wipe your face with that napkin, that could be your napkin.
Okay, your napkin ring. Gotcha, okay. Very good. Okay, I was thinking one on the lines of a weapon, but you know, just these people in the drill bits. So I will get those finished. I've got to finish cutting these out and get a finish on them, and then they will be donated this week. There will not be a challenge for next month, April, because we're coming into Easter, and I need everybody to focus on what's important. So I need to do, welcome to Tri-City Woodturners. We're going to start the meeting now. Yay! All right, any guests? Good. Please rise, introduce yourself. It's your 15 seconds of fame.
Gary Gymnastics, I live here in Gray. My wife, Darlene, I'm just getting started. I turned
All right.
one bowl.
All right, that's a start. He says he's looking for a lathe too, so.
That's where the addiction starts.
Yeah. New members, who do we have as a new member?
Right over here.
And let's,
I'm Roden.
okay.
I'm his brother.
Oh, okay, all right, guilt by association, that's a good one. I'm glad you come. Young is good. Isaac, bring more. Okay, now Dave Culberson is not here, but he asked me to let you all know that we have gotten a new bookkeeping system. It's QuickBooks. It's a program that he and a guy put together, well, have acquired, and they're putting it on the computer and transferring everything that Tri-City Woodturners has, paperwork, legal stuff, everything, into this new program. He said it would take a couple of months probably to get it all squared away, but he's in QuickBooks and he's tickled. And it should make it simpler for him. And it is a $50 a year because we're not-for-profit status. So it's not gonna break the bank. Also, anyone who has not paid their dues up to this point, get her done. Dave needs to get all that stuff squared away as he's filling in the new paperwork transfer. So if you haven't paid for 2026, please do so. Bob will take your money. Any other announcements? On Friday, there's a metal thing up at
Fisherman Gallery.
Fishman Gallery. So if anybody wants to go to Fishman Gallery in Johnson City.
6:30 is the PM is the reception.
Okay, excellent. So, I mean, it'd be a good thing to do, get out on a Friday night and just go up and support local artisans. Don't forget the stuff back on the table. Keith White, where did you go? There you are. Kevin, sorry. I'll get it. He is a volunteer that works with Warriors Path State Park, the park. And he has made a suggestion for our second quarter not-for-profit donation to be something along the lines of donating items that can be auctioned off, and the proceeds would benefit the Warriors Path State Park not-for-profits, because I assume that they're...
So, yeah, I'm vice president of a friends group at the Woodturners March State Park, and basically we try to help the park do what they can't afford to do. You know, when the state doesn't give them enough money to do things. A lot of their effort goes toward the Daryl's boundless stream playground. I don't know if you've ever been out there taking your kids, but that's what we do, a lot of work with that. We also help Marty Silver with things he might need. We built him, we donated money so a house could be built so he could keep some of the injured raptors that he has and use those to show off the kids and stuff like that.
Excellent, excellent.
But yeah,
Okay.
it's basically, we help the park do what they can't do and help advocate for the park. We can either sell the items in the marina gift shop or do an auction kind of deal or something like that.
Well, that would be, you're just, whatever you decide to do, but that's what is submitted, I guess, brought forth to the club for our second quarter donation for not-for-profit. So I think it sounds wonderful and very beneficial. As far as I know, are there any other announcements that need to be made regarding the club, anything? John LaChance had contacted me that April the 7th, there's an opportunity to do demonstrations and sell items at ETSU. I do not think it's a Tennessee craft function, but it's similar to what is done in Archstruck. So it's getting a lathe to ETSU, so there can be demonstrations, and John is the one to contact on that. So if you have opportunity, April 7th, and you're available to introduce somebody to wood turning, get hold of John. But other than that, at this time, we have Mr. Renault up here who's going to show us how to chase threads. It's up to you.
Well, we'll
What?
show you how.
Oh, Instant Gallery, wait a minute.
I was going to say, you got the Instant Gallery.
I wish you'd have said that a minute ago. Anyway, this is me. We have Instant Gallery. Who would like to be first? Don't everybody jump at one time. Here comes Bob. Gosh, almighty.
here.
Six-pointed bowl.
Yeah.
Sometimes they break and they end up three-pointed bowls.
I wanted to do it while it was fresh in my head, because right now I wouldn't know where to start to do it. But, turned out pretty good.
Excellent, thank you, Bob. Who has a little bowl? Oh, yay!
It's just a little late bowl. I really like the wood, so didn't want it to go to trash, so make that. Here's a walnut burl. That's just fine to turn, it's a little tiny one. If you look at the back, I was just about to go through.
We had the fundraiser last year, or not fundraiser, donation for the birdhouse. When I did that, I had some small pieces left over, and I glued up this big small ornamental birdhouse. And then I thought, well, maybe I should make a hanger for it. So I made an ornament hanger before, so I just made a bigger ornament hanger to hang it with. And the base is weighted, so it's nice and sturdy. Carried it upstairs, showed my wife, and she said, well, it needs a bird. But made a bird, and since then I've made and sold a bunch of these. And I'm going to demo this in July. Thanks for listening for it. At least on part of this, I can't do all of that in one meeting. I'll get part of it done.
I've got one thing I've been trying, and it has to be on. So it's an emerging lighthouse. And it had a place in it, so I made a set of steps that disappeared so you can go up inside of it. But this is just something that, this is me, and I love it. All right, well.
I've made thousands of bowls, and I wanted to try something a little bit different shape. These are all very similar, but they have a real thick rim on here, so you can get to see a little bit more of the wood that's showing instead of the edge. And then it's not that thick. Down in here, it's an eighth of an inch. So when you pick it up, it's light. You don't get a big piece of wood here. So that's kind of what I've been. These are all very similar.
I think it gives you a better place to grab it.
Well, yeah, when you pass it, you can grab it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one had a crack in, and I put some butterflies in to save the nice piece of walnut. I demoed this once before, and if you're interested, I can do it again. I don't know, it was 3 or 4 years ago, maybe, I don't know.
Beautiful, thank you. Bob.
Well, about a year ago, I showed up for my first meeting at the Tri-Cities Woodturners Club, and a gentleman was here, Dan Floyd, and he was selling his turning equipment. I don't know if it was that particular meeting, maybe the next one, but I ended up buying all of his stuff, and there was a Nova lathe, which you have to move belts around to get different speeds, but you know, still it's pretty nice stuff. And all the tools he had collected over a lifetime, he was getting out of it because of his age and stuff. So I bought that stuff, and I got with Harold Pannell, who was my mentor, has been, and visited Harold many times, and he helped me turn some really beautiful stuff. But I attended a class at Woodcraft in Knoxville, and I turned this bowl out of cherry, and it's the first thing I've actually turned all by myself without anybody's assistance. The instructor there was showing us what to do on his lathe, but then we had to do it on ours, and so. Then I got it home and I thought, wow, it's too thick, you know, so I worked on it some more on my equipment and thinned it out some. And then I used the Beal polishing system, which I saw demoed here once, and polished it after I put the tongue oil finish on it. So anyway, it's just real smooth. It's just an average roll, but I thought I'd show it off because it's the first thing I turned by myself.
Has everybody kept the very first thing they ever turned?
Somewhere.
I did.
That didn't in the trash.
Right, yeah, the one that was salvaged, yeah.
Sue and I missed last month, you know, everybody brought their hearts. We had the flu, so I brought mine. This is my broken heart. That just, I thought I had a good piece of wood, I got into it, it didn't. So you can see I had to fix that. Another one, I did two of these before I realized, just don't take a piece of wood and start. You got to have it centered upright. I'm not real bright. Then the little one out of walnut. Kevin brought me some wood. I loaned him a lathe, and he brought me some sassafras. He said, it's got some junk in it, but you'll turn it away. I turned, and there it is. So, but that's another heart.
Right.
Got a heart shape out of that. I was kind of proud of being able to do that. And then, in the meantime, just a little lidded box. I like to do these. These are kind of fun. Doesn't take much wood, doesn't take much time, and then doesn't take much room when you're through with it. Kevin is someone you need to get to know, because he's watering in wood. It's East Tennessee talk, we got a lot of it. And he can be very helpful to us, to you, if you work with him and let him help you, let him get you some wood. Right about that?
Yeah. I've got some ash flakes I just harvested. It's got a little kind of rainbow color in it. It's really weird.
He got the wood magic type style and the whole deal. So. And he lives with wood.
Yeah.
So keep it in mind. Thank you.
This is I didn't make it the last meeting. Anyway, this is my version of a heart mold. It's mahogany.
I was cutting wood 2 Saturdays ago, and there was a old log laying there that was dead and rotted. And I just about left it. Finally, I cut into it, had all this asphalting in it and all that, and ended up turning some of it. Got about 20 blanks of it. Came out pretty well, I thought. So,
Very nice. Very nice.
so even rotted wood.
So I had a cherry blade that was saving for live edge, and about a month ago I said, go ahead and turn that. So I turned it, and first of all, a little bit of an odd shape. It was a little bit deeper than I thought, so instead of going this way, I went this way with it. But it had, the reason I thought it had a significant chunk out of the rim. And you know, I've heard different people talk about, well, you can burn the edge, you know, kind of disguise it, or color it this way, or color it that way. I thought, heck, I've got a lot of bark. Why don't I just replace it? And so I did. And I've told you about it, so you probably, being a wood turner, come up here and tell me where it is. But if I didn't tell you about it, you would not know the difference. And that bowl was a whole lot more valuable than a bowl that's got something trying to cover up a mistake. So I was real pleased with it. I thought, well, what the heck, give it a try. It worked.
Very good. Jerry, you want to discuss?
sister-in-law's house, and I thought, what am I gonna do with it? I tripped over the basement for about 9 months, and I saw a little bit, so I made some mushrooms out of it, and I will say the dogwood does the best. I mean, it just has all kinds of character to it. And if you do knock the bark off, you can take the wood burner and fix it on these, you cannot peel it apart. You really have to look close. But the dogwood turns beautiful.
This is a piece I bought here at one of the meetings after a demo. And took it home, been on the shelf, so I finally turned it. That's what it turned out.
How big? What's the thickness?
Oh, I don't know, I just feel, I didn't measure to see. The only measurement I do is down here, just to make sure I don't
I'm
go
just
through.
turning the bottom now.
But yeah, we auctioned off this piece of wood here at the,
Excellent.
and I bought it and took it home.
Hey, good, you can do that again. Renee, are you?
Let me do mine.
When you do your thing.
I believe the heart is about a month late, but here's my heart. Wife liked it, guess what? She got her something.
You got it out of the house, very good.
When you pre-press table gets unlevel, you're on recess, this is what happens. But it turned out.
It's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
What's the finish?
Why, I'm Here's my first basketball. I seen this pattern in one of the magazines back there, except it was a lot larger, but I didn't have scraps large enough to make the pattern, so I cut it down the side. Made a square piece of oak, part of a star post, pieces of maple, and a star grid. Something different.
Very nice.
And the kids love these things. It works.
Oh, look at there. Nice. Oh, very nice. Hey, the kid at heart, y'all, and he's 91 this month.
Sunday.
Yeah. Very good.
For y'all that don't know, Harold only uses the finish that was named after his first girlfriend in high school, right on Polly.
You gotta be a certain somebody to say that, so good. But now I think it's yours.
We've had a number of boxes, and I'm gonna show you a different way to make boxes.
That's right.
This has got pepper in it, by the way, because this is where I use made. This got over 20 years on it. The difference between the salt and pepper shaker is you don't have to put a plug in the bottom. You've got a thread at the top. So you can load your salt, you can load your pepper. And I'm going to show you how to put the threads on any piece of wood. But we're going to use some imagination tonight, and I'll explain that to you.
Have you used wood?
It has to, well, I'll tell you, the wood always varies, okay, with moisture content.
Right.
And one of the things that you do with thread is you don't do a tight thread, okay, so it's a loose fit thread. It's not loose once you tighten it down. determine where you're gonna do the thread. But you do need ground for threads. They don't work on very well at all. Though one of the things about doing something a little different than what we mostly turn threads is you have a stream of opportunity to make mistakes. And the funeral urn that I made, I turned it, put the threads in there, turned the cap for it, put the threads in there, and I set it up. And it was fairly dry. It wasn't dry enough. I had to get a pair of channel locks this big to unscrew it, and then I modified the threads a little bit back. So the piece was not lost, you know. But you do have to be dry when you cut the threads.
Also, it needs to be end grain and not side grain.
It has to be bold, yes. In other words, you can't do end grain. Okay? The key is it has to be with spindle, you can't do spindle orientation, you have to do faceplate orientation. Does that make, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's the opposite of what I was saying.
Well, the reason for that is, again, yeah, I've got one sample.
Bold will elongate. I made, my first one I made that orientation, and when it elongates, it will not turn.
Yeah.
You are true about drying, okay, but as long as you dry it and return.
Rough turn it and
Yeah, you leave enough material, and then you can go ahead and turn it around after it's dry. You're totally correct about the way it would shape. If you do end grain, you get very little warpage, okay? But I'll pass one. I only had one piece I pass around. The problem with end grain is that you've got the grain like this, and I'm cutting it, okay? And I'm making one 16 thread, okay? And so what it does, it just chips off.
Yeah. So you stabilize the wood.
You can, or you can turn it with the grain going the other direction. And this one, as I pass it around, one of the things you want to do is tighten it down tight enough to line it back up again. And basically it's boxes. You can make any type of box shape. This is another different box shape. Again, very fine thread. I'll pass it around so you can see it. But you have to do it in a faceplate orientation. And I'll pass around some samples. One of the things that you have with other thread that we do. You can put the mark on this.
Shift it around a little what you need to.
Is it all? Yep, okay. It's a little high. You adjust?
Yeah.
Okay, no feedback. So these are pieces of pine, which no other process would be able to put a thread in. One of them is at 8 threads per inch, and the others are all at 16 threads per inch. And so when you're making a box, I need to give out the pages. Okay. Excellent. I don't think it's enough. I probably shorted some rows, so I got plenty here. Okay, we'll go down the other side to do short. John, he's still on the game. Okay. Pass him up. Okay, guys. Okay, we'll go down here. Do some. Yes, it is.
It'd be nice threads if this is steel.
Well, the thread cutter that I use is actually for cutting steel. And it's the only thing I forgot to bring tonight. So we're going to show you how to do it and what the equipment is, and that list there shows you all the equipment that's necessary. The concept is that you have to have your part of the thread both halves in a chuck that'll fit into a chuck, so you have to have both the top and bottom of the steel. Has to have is the instructions of how to turn the bottoms with thinner on the blend. This is actually my original setup with a cross slide, and in designing something for the first time, you want to go a little bit overboard. And this is a 6-inch cross slide, which when you lift it, you'll realize it's an overboard. Okay. The one that's up here is a 4-inch and more than adequate to do the threads. So it's made from a cross slide. I put Amazon down on the list. You can actually get it at Harbor Freight. The Harbor Freight is $89, and you notice that less than price is a little bit lower. So you have to have a cross slide, and the cross slide's job is to be able to bring your, I'll take this back off again a little bit. Okay, now the imaginary piece is there's a cutter in this chuck. This chuck is just a chuck that's tapered, and that's not. What do we use for a knockout on this one?
It's on the side.
Oh, there is, okay. It's hard to think of that as a rod, and this is the portion you can see. It's nice to have a little mass to it, so this is just the chuck, and the cutter that's listed there is a carbide cutter, and it fits in the chuck. And you put your lathe at as high speed as you can. The Nova that I have will do 3,600 RPM. One good thing about not bringing the cutter today is the fact that this is set for low speed, and I'd have to reset it for high speed. But you put your lathe at the high speed. The highest you can go is still slow. A cutter like this in a router would be turning 20,000 RPM. So you're not going to be too fast. And so the cutter in here has 4 flutes on it that are shaped like the inside of a thread. And so it's spinning at 3,600 RPM. This is the sample. I've got some turning I'm going to do, but unfortunately it won't be actually the threads. Okay, where are we? Here. Okay, this is what you would do, like for instance for my funeral urn, you turn the urn as a complete piece, leaving the shape for chasing your threads. Almost everything returns out of green wood, and so then you've got to set it aside to dry. Then you can chuck it back up in the tenon and be able to set it in here and do the so you can see the one laying here, that's actually the 1/8 8 threads per inch. The one in my vise and the one in here is a 16 threads per inch, which makes that fine thread that I've been passing around. And so what the process is that this is turning. You have to present the piece so that for the inside, the cutter is spinning, it's 3,600 RPM. The cutter goes inside here, and then the reason that you have this threaded rod is because then you advance this past the cutter, and it cuts the exact thread that's on the threaded rod. And you do inside one, the piece itself, the threads themselves have to have a 50 to 60 thousandths interference. If you don't do that, or if you do it, you haven't done it in a while, you get set up for this demonstration, and so you put your piece on there and you get to working on there, and you do it in the opposite direction. They shouldn't go together. In other words, this is 60 thousandths oversized instead of 60 thousandths undersized. So it's an interference fit, and you have to measure that. And so we get, when we're set up for this piece, I'll measure the ID after I've cut the threads. The OD, excuse me, I'll get that in a minute. It's the ID for here and it'll be OD on the other piece. So I measure the actual dimension that I've got for this one happens to be, I used a drill, so this is actually at 1 1/4. Okay, so that's 1 1/4 inches. And so I would go ahead and cut the thread until it finally got clean. In other words, you got a good clean thread, and you just keep advancing this till you get a good clean thread, cut a little bit at a time. And then that would still, and measured again, you may have cut a little more away, so maybe a little bit larger. Then I made the cap piece. And so, my butt's still on. But where did I lay those 2 bars down? There they are, right up underneath. This is an old, and of course, a lot of us had some lower price chucks when we got started. And so I don't do much turning on this chuck, but I use it for threading, and I also use it for another fixture that I've got that's for putting finish on, because I put the finish on with the piece turning. And so I've got another thing to do that. And so after you've turned the thread on the inside here, okay, it's threaded. You can see it from the samples we passed around what the female thread is, okay. After you've turned that, then the piece that you're going to make the top out of, you chuck up, and here I would have to loosen this up so I could move it further. That's one thing that the slide adjusted here to bring it up to my cutter, and then I can cut the OD of this, and this needs to be 60 thousandths larger than the finished thread there. Or you end up, if you do it backwards, you got scrap. Of course, this thread's good, so you can go cut a different color piece like this for my sample. This would have a mahogany top and a maple base. And so you can use whatever you want to with the different materials. So the cross slide makes the cut deeper and deeper until you get the full thread on there. And then the one thing that's nice, on all of your thread cutters, above the thread shank is also cutting surface. And so you've cut a full thread, and it's not, it's too big to fit in, or if you're cutting on the other way, it's too small, you can keep cutting it, and it'll just keep making a bigger and bigger OD thread. And so you've got full capability of cutting that. Then the other thing with that piece that I talked about first, where did it end up? No.
Salt and pepper,
Huh?
or your pepper shaker.
Yeah, no, the other one you had, yeah, the one you just lifted, that one. Have you lined it up? Okay. The other thing that you do is, besides being able to change the diameters, and you've got this finished, and it's unlikely it's got to dry it out some. It's unlikely that it'll line up because it's random where you start. I'd imagine that there's a way to calculate that out and try to get it so that you start at the right place. That's not worth the effort. So what do? Okay. You've got this piece mounted in here. No. That wasn't the case. I had this piece because I cut this thread last. You can do it either way. I could have cut this one last. But I've got this mounted in my chuck, not with the cutter. Mounted in the chuck, here I've cut the piece, and I can mount this one into my chuck, my regular chuck. Now that I've got the and I'll mount this up and do some cutting on it just a little bit. But I've got this, I've already made sure that the thread fits. Okay. And so to get it to line up, I've got two options. I can either chuck this piece up and cut this surface down, okay? Or I can mount this piece up and cut this surface down until it turns far enough. Since you got 16 threads per inch, one whole round is a 1/16 of an inch. And so, depending on exactly where you end up, if you want something to line up like this one, if you want one to line up like this one, then it's trial and error. And so you can turn it, make the cut, and then fit it, tighten, loosen, cut it some more, and hope you don't cut too much, kind of ease up on it. So you've got the opportunity to line up your grain with any type of grain or pattern by just increasing the interference on the piece. After you get it, okay, I got two options. What's that time? I can turn one further instructions there. We got time. I'll go ahead and do it. What the instructions on your handout talk about in making a box is you set the piece in the lathe.
Can't see it. Right there, yes.
Okay, let me hold it underneath. You you set the piece in the lathe, you turn down this center portion to the OD of your thread that's big enough to let you hollow without, and still have enough material left. So you figure out what your hollow size is going to be. Then you take, and as the instructions say there, you turn this down with 3/8 of an inch and I'll do that in just a minute. So you take your blank, you put your 2 tenons on there, and you turn that down. So now you've got this, and then you part that off. And once you've parted that off, you've got your cap and your box. And so these are your 2 pieces that they have their tenons on. So then you can mount them in the threading device. One at a time. Again, you can do it in any order. Cut a thread. Once you've cut one of the threads, you have to match it with the other half. So you have the cutter spinning here. You chase the thread, okay. And once you chase that thread, you can measure it and take your cap and put it in there, and then chase the inside thread. And so you measure, but then while you're chasing this thread, you've already cut this thread. So while you're chasing this thread, you can continue to check the fit so that you get a nice loose fit. So once you've got that, where things line up, well, you won't line up. You've got the fit. So then you can take and face off either the cap or the bowl until you got it lined up the way you want to. With respect to that pepper shaker that's going around, that doesn't have a dominant grain, and so there was no effort at trying to line it up. In other words, you just wanted to screw and unscrew so that you could put pepper, or the salt shaker had too much in it. We'd have had salt all over the place if I brought it in tonight. But didn't try to line it up. So depending on the grain pattern, if you got something that's very distinctive, you'd want to line up. If you've got something that's not distinctive, then you don't have to worry about it. And that pepper shaker doesn't have a grain lineup because it doesn't have a distinctive pattern. This piece of wood did. So after we do that, any questions on the actual threading process? We'll unfortunately have to use our imagination here, but I'm going to cut some wood, so I have to take it off. No questions?
Do you lubricate the threads after you cut them, wax them?
No. Again, if you take any of those samples, you'll find that there's not a tight fit. Okay? And so, just like, I can mention that too. If you get set up with this, one of the things that you have to do is a nut to a thread, unless you buy some really expensive threads and nuts, are not tight. That's why you can spin the nut up till you get it tight. Okay? And so when you mount this in the lathe, let me loosen this and I'll slide it up there so you can see. Okay. When you mount this in the lathe, or mount this in the vise, you have to put tension on the nuts in the opposite direction so that you take all the play out, so that there's no play in that thread. There's another way to do it, especially if you're lazy like I am. You can put a spring on it, so it takes the play out by itself, just take it out, clamp it in, take it out, clamp it in. I happen to have a spring that size, and I trying to get it. I don't know if you saw me playing around with that one, it took me about 4 or 5 tries to get all the play out of that one. But you can do it. And so that's one thing you have to do is that, and that's the same thing with the threads that we were just discussing, the wood threads. In other words, they're loose, so you don't need to worry about the change in moisture content that varies it a little bit. You don't have to worry about the thing tightening up, because it tightens up when it bottoms out. So it doesn't have to be tight until it gets to the final piece.
Do you need to adjust the up and down plane?
No.
To make it-
This cutter and this are on the same center. All I've got to do is go back and forth. Okay, I see I haven't answered the question yet. Okay, so this is the cutter here.
Your thread shaft is centered with the...
No, it's offset. It's offset whatever the diameter is going to be. Okay, the cutter is on axis. Okay, this is off axis. This is over far. In other words, if I wanted to cut a thread, same thread now, we're not changing the pitch. We're going to do 16 threads an inch. But we're not going to do 3/4 inch diameter, which is what the shaft is for standard 16. Okay, 3/4 16 is a standard thread. Okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to do it larger. In other words, all of these are a lot larger.
Your cutter is running on the outside edge.
If it's, this is running on the outside edge, mounted in here, okay? And if it's the cap, it's on the inside edge and then coming out. So, one of the things that I hadn't done any in a while, and so when I was doing all these samples, I realized the chuck, the drill chuck, is just tapered fit, okay? And if you do your cutting so that you are backing this out, doing the cut, it'll pull this out of the head.
You gotta put a thread on.
Well, you can, but all you do is always cut the other way. Then it'll keep, there won't be any. So that's different whether you're the inside or the outside, but you're always going to be going all the way from the, for this side, you actually cut going into it. And for the inside, you actually go inside and cut coming out of it. That way you're always putting the pressure back inside. Like I said, doing something different, you've got an opportunity to find out all the mistakes. And the thing of it is that all of those things are recoverable. They don't ruin the piece. When that thing came loose, it was obvious. You got a 3600 thing spinning, and it's no longer tight in the chuck. Well, it's held inside here, it's held inside there, so all you have to do is just shut the thing off, put it back on there, and go back to cutting your threads. So it's not throwing, we're not throwing big chunks of pieces around. But again, what I'm saying is the piece itself is off center, the cutter's on center, and you approach the cutter with the cross slide. So you come into it, take a little deeper cut, go all the way through on your threads, back out again, go a little bit deeper, come all the way through with your threads, come back out again. And so you always cut in the same direction. You don't cut going and coming, because you'll eventually pull. Well, I did, but I remembered. As soon as it came loose, I said, oops, can't do that. And so, so there's some keys in using it. The nice thing to do is you can run all of the practice on good old cheap 2x4s until you haven't had a chance to make all your mistakes. And then you can cut on something that you want to make sure is done properly. The mentioned on that handout, and you can barely see it here, but if you'll see, this thread doesn't go all the way to the surface here. You have to undercut where you're going to make the threads so that that cutter can finally cut through. So this has a shoulder on it. Undercut, it's undercut and then threaded. So as you okay, let's see how we do that. All right, it's undercut, and so you're doing the threads here. And so as you chase the thread through, it can turn here. It's not cutting anything. So you make an undercut right next to the face, and that lets the thread break out. You need that only on the male thread, because that's the only one that goes all the way down tight. If you get too tight, when you put this on and it won't go all the way down, you just cut some off of this face here, because it doesn't have to fit tight. The only thing that has to fit tight is these two surfaces. And so by undercutting the male thread, you can always bring these two surfaces together tight. But like I said, the key is you don't have to be perfect. You can, this one happens to be quite perfect with respect to being a face placement mounting. You can see there's the center right there. But as long as you're not in line so that you're trying to cut threads on fibers that are going the way my fingers are, then what it does is the top of the threads chip off. Now, that does not make a non-functional thread. Here, I'll show you what the thread looks like when that happens. I only have one of these, making bad samples isn't fun. But it's still a functional thread, and you can still use it to close, but unfortunately for the wood turning and things that we do, we like every part of it to look good, and so you don't want your thread to look like that once you open it up. It'll still work, it'll still close, but it won't look great. You can probably, if you use the 8 threads per inch, I don't know how many of you got to look at that one, but you'll notice that it doesn't have, in other words, the thread is shaped like this, okay? And that one, those are shaped like this because the cutter is for 16 threads per inch, and when you have 8 threads per inch, the cutter's not deep enough to cut the full depth of the thread. But it's a fully functional thread, and maybe you could cut in grain and get by with it because you still leave a big piece not to chip out. I haven't tried that. The 8 threads per inch means with the 16 threads per inch, I only need 3/8 inch of material to put the thread in. Actually, less than 3/8. I need about 3/16 to 3/8. If I do if I do 8 threads per inch, I've got to use 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of wood for the thread. And when you part it off, that cuts away more and more wood. And so I really haven't done much. I put it together and it'll work, okay? But I didn't find that to be, in my opinion, practical for what I wanted to do. I wanted a fine thread, and the 16 pitch is the thread that I wanted. Let me get this off of here, and I'll do so. Now, once you've got got your thread.
Is 8 threads per inch easier to cut than 16? Do you get a higher percentage of success with 8 threads than you do
No.
with 2?
No, it's really easy. Cutting the threads is really easy. And you can, like I said, you can look at all those pine pieces and you see that it's a nice smooth cut at 3600. Like I said, I'd love to be going faster if I could. We'll tighten it just to be sure. So there's several things. There's several things. This one, I don't know how much you paid attention, but this has got plenty of thickness of wall. In other words, I didn't cut out the inside to a thin wall. So that leaves the option so you can shape your box any way you want to after you've got the pieces together. And you've still got your box for whatever shape. Make acorns, make whatever you want, because you can turn the piece you can turn the top after it's put together. So, you can take this, and when you do the other end, you can mount. You've got it just like you have with a normal box. You've got an ID that you can put a cone in, put your center point on the tailstock, and shape that bottom however you want. And so you can do a complete finish for your box in any shape or form that you would like. Now I can set up, what are we on time? I can set up at, what are we doing, 7 o'clock, 7:10? I can turn this blank to what this piece would be. For thread, to be prepared for threading.
You use the same thread cutter for both 8 and 6?
Yes, I do. Now you could get a thread cutter that would cut 8. It would be a bigger cutter so that you could go deeper. But like I said, I didn't. A carbide cutter, the bigger it is, the more expensive it is. What am I looking for? Oh, no, my favorite piece. I didn't bring my center finder. And got to go to some old techniques. This banjo's a little big for doing small pieces. Okay, so we said that after you get your blank, you've got to do your tenons on both ends. I just soon run this into the chuck. Okay, then what we do is we want to say, okay, this is the top. I want to decide how big I want my top. Well, it's got to be at least 3/8 of an inch plus some thickness in order to cut the inside thread. So if I make this top 1/2 inch, I've got plenty of room to do that, or I can make it 5/8. So that'll be the thickness of the top. And then it says that I need to have 3/8 inch for the thread. So then we turn that down to whatever the OD. So if I said that this is about 2 3/4 inch diameter, so depending on what kind of shape I want to do on the outside, I mean, the inside of the box then can be, let's say 1.5 inches. That gives me a lot of room to shape the outside any way I want. And so if the inside bore is 1.5 inches, then I need to leave enough material for the thread. And it says add 3/8 to the hollow diameter. So if I'm 1.5 inches, then I would turn this down to 1 7/8. Or you can do it bigger. What I'm saying is it depends on how much you want to turn down. So we're going to turn it down to, let me see. I did say this was 2 3/4. So if we turn it down to 1 3/4, that would be, yeah. Well, the harder the wood, the maple's good for cutting threads. But you can see I can get, on the mahogany, I can make a good cut on mahogany, which is a really open grain wood. I've never tried to cut threads in oak. I'm sure I can do it, but I just hate to look oak. It's just not a wood for me. So I haven't tried it in oak, but you should be able to do it in anything, even with open grain, because that pine's pretty open. And so, but any of the hardwoods that I work with, cherry, elm, maple, hickory, any of them will make good threads.
You don't care.
I care what the piece looks like, but I don't care what the wood is. You know, you want the wood to be good enough.
What kind of wood is that?
This is maple. That wasn't very smart. So now you've got your two pieces, and you're ready to do your inside. This one doesn't use a knockout, right? I have to knock out, yeah, I have to do a knockout on both ends of mine. There's always two ways to turn something. It's always the second way. For me. If I shut it off, I can prevent that. But it is a pretty tight fit, so let's see what we want to do. I'm leaving. We'll go 1 and 15 and 16. So now if you're just making a simple box, that's good enough. And you can shape the outside. So, I would take that off and, put it in my chuck like I showed you earlier and, thread. Mount it in here, put the cutter in here, and make it lead through to cut the threads. As you see, I got kind of a taper when I cut it down, so you'll have to cut it down enough so that it has a straight. But again, you don't have to be right on. You just got to have enough material there. So when after you cut this one, you measure it, and that sets the dimension that you have to turn for the inside of your cap. Any questions on that? I'm sorry I left the cutter at the house.
How many passes do you make with the cutter?
With the carbide, oh, how many passes to make the full thread? I usually do about 4 passes, 4 or 5, but I don't pay attention to it. I just turn it in, take it. You have to be a little bit careful. It's easy to overcut the thread because your cross slide is only going half the dimension of the diameter. And we're talking about 60 thousandths interference, okay? So when you move this in 5 thousandths, it cuts 10 thousandths off the diameter. And so I just ease it in to get it with clean thread, measure it. And then, depending on which one it is, if it's the one I'm trying to match, then I'll cut until I can get that dimension that I'm going for. In other words, a 60 thousandths interference. But if it's the first one, once I got a good clean thread, I quit. And then I use that to determine what the other thread has to be. Because again, you're not making any unique size, you're just making 2 threads to match. Yeah. Can I answer any other questions?
So the top for your pepper shaker does not fit on the body of the salt shaker?
That's correct. Yeah. It's custom. Every thread is custom. You may have an idea, in other words, they may be close because you may have an idea, like I decided what the dimension wanted to be, and I tried to hit that dimension, but then, like I said, I ended up with a taper. Well, the thread's not going to be tapered, it's got to be cylindrical. And so I'll have to cut a little more, and so it may be a little bit smaller than what I planned. But then I've got the matching piece, and I make it whatever matches.
Which one do you cut first?
It doesn't matter. I usually do the box in first because I've got more to do with it. I got to hollow it. I got some other stuff to do with it. So by habit, I'll cut the box in first, so I can kind of get into everything except the external shape in a finish. In other words, how much I want to hollow it out, whatever I want to do with that. That's what I did. I turned this the way you normally would. I went ahead and turned this one and shaped the outside. And then I drilled it out. And then I went inside and undercut to make it just like you would a bigger urn, okay? But I left this at the dimension I started, in other words, at the drill dimension I started with. And so now this one's ready to put a thread in, and I was going to do that tonight. And then, of course, just like any other piece, then you have to finish the bottom where you've got your tenon. And then that's why I cut the other piece. And again, they're not cut out of the same piece, so you don't have to match threads or anything, match grain or anything, because they're completely different grain, different colors. And so once I was going to turn this one first tonight, and then I would cut this one till it fit. And of course you got one that's in there being threaded, and the other one is, and that's you can mess up fairly easy on using the cross slide if you don't pay attention, but it's not that hard to not mess up. On the cross side, to I do two things. One, I go in to the cutter deeper, okay? And I need, no, I need to tighten that back up. Okay, I go in with my piece on here, and so I'll advance this in, and that gives my depth of cut, okay? And this gives me my thread, okay? So then I'll advance this past the cutter until I get the full width of the thread I'm cutting, and back it back out. So the one thing you gotta do is never move this one, because then you've lost the thread. Okay. You can move it till you start, and once you start cutting the thread, then everything is more engaged into the cutter and threaded, rotate back and forth. And once you've got your thread that you want, you can measure, and you've got the other piece that's already done. You can measure what you've got and then put it, see that you're close, or it measures close to having that 50 to 60 thousandths interference. Then you can also test it too before you finish it. And I guess one of the things about doing the urn shape is if you mess up, you just have to get another tap. Make it match. You know. So if you mess up on the matched box, like the one that I showed you in my sample there, you ruined it. Those two pieces can't go together. I've already cut out too much material.
So next month you can bring the cutter?
Yeah, I'll bring the cutter so everybody can see the cutter. Yeah, it's a carbide cutter. If you go on Amazon, you'll see it, okay, look at the cutter, you can see the picture of the cutter. So it's a but you don't need a vise that big. That vise, the little 4-inch vise is plenty big enough.
Okay.
4 or 5 inch vise.
Renee, thank you so very much.
Yes. Oh, for her.
I didn't forget.
One of the advantages of sleeping with the demo scheduler is she comes out and says, "Your demo in April." And so you say, "Yes, ma'am." The problem is, what? Give me some ideas that you'd like to see.
Spear,
Mark?
spear, ball, spear.
You would see, that's all. Walt has done a spear. Any more ideas so I can pick?
Offset turning of some sort. An offset turning of some sort.
Offset.
Offset.
Multi-axis.
Did I say I'm sorry I asked? I've done some of that, but, all right, thank you. We'll get one of those. We'll get one of those.
All right, Larry has something that he left in the room. Do you want to explain about your shamrock? I missed you a while ago.
Oh, it's just a shamrock.
Well,
Piece of pine.
honey,
So I cut it out, cut the shape of the leaf, that shape of the leaf. Then cut it out on the bandsaw.
it's good color.
Made a little pedestal for it.
Yeah.
A lot of good work.
Yeah, green's my favorite color, always. Money, you know. Okay, back on the table, anything nothing here, whatever you take, make a donation, all the way to run. So please, clean us out. And next